hear anybody. There we go.
Hello?
When?
I think it's showing me.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
RJ's on an island again.
Hello.
I never left the island. You know, I'm quarantined here.
Somebody's hello.
Yes, it's RJ. No, he's on the computer.
RJ is on.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. Doing well. Looking
Good.
forward to
Well, I see Mike joining in now.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So I'm looking for Katie or RJ, who should be our leaders today.
We are here. I don't see Katie's face, but I did a minute ago.
I'm
But
here.
I am here, Mike. There she is.
RJ will be the host today, and thank you, Mike, for doing this. We really appreciate it.
Of course, how many do we anticipate today with us?
That is a good question. Right now, we are 57 in counting, which is a turnout. I hope to have the problem of capping at 100.
There you go. But I love the setting behind you.
Yeah, it's
That
my
does-
Honolulu office.
That does not look at all like Rochester or Buffalo. That's for darn sure.
Well, it's
But what a group.
Syracuse and Albany, but nevertheless.
That's called Lake Albany right there behind you. That's for sure. So are you going to lead the call, or is Katie, or whatever
Yeah,
you guys would like?
I'll kick it off now that you're here and it's 12 o'clock, so we're on time. So we're at 65 people and counting. So for starters, everybody, thank you for taking some time out of your day. It's terrific to have, obviously, Mike Ferry here with us today to share his knowledge of real estate. And Mike is celebrating 45 years as being the #1 real estate coach in North America. So congrats to Mike. And obviously each year the Mike Ferry organization helps out thousands of our real estate professionals. You know, the goal is to increase your production, increase your income. And today our topic is to finish the year strong. 14 things to finish the year strong will kind of be the topic of today. And above all, right now, thank you, Mike, for joining us.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and thanks for participating. And it sounds like we have a good turnout so far. I'm going to start by just asking if we could mute everybody if possible, just to keep the distractions down. And then you'll get a kick out of this because, you know, I've worked with your company for probably now close to 30 years on and off, and it's always been fun. But I have to say to all of your agents and your management team, and Katie will appreciate this, I don't think I've ever finished a seminar that I've started in my 45 years of doing them. I always have more information to offer than I have time. So what I'm going to offer today is to make sure that we have a copy of this in you folks' hands, and everybody can get a copy of either of the notes, either from me or from you folks. I just want to make sure they have the information. But I want to share something to start. I was looking backwards, and I was thinking about the fact that in 2006, I produced a little video clip at our Superstar Retreat in July. And the video clip was from that movie, The Perfect Storm, which many of us saw with George Clooney back years ago. And the video clip, I did a voiceover and I predicted what I thought was going to happen to the real estate market. That was July 2006. And you'll get a kick out of this. The audience was not very happy with my predictions because they thought I was preaching doom and gloom, which I don't ever do. January 2007, I showed the same video clip a second time. And this time everybody applauded because all the things that I had talked about in July were taking place. And of course, we had 2007 to 2012, as we all know, a very, very challenging, difficult, and in many cases, it devastated the real estate economy market. Today, we have a different theme. And today is what I call the perfect market for any individual real estate agent that wants to succeed at a high level. All the circumstances for that taking place are, in my opinion, perfect, starting with the inventory shortage, because that inventory shortage has pretty much plagued the nation for the last 12 to 18 months. But the good news about the shortage, and this is something that all of us have to remember, is it does allow the sellers to get the price they want. It does allow us sellers to be in a competitive situation to decide which offer they want to accept with multiple offers. But it also brings the seller back to the agent in the future, because anytime a seller is getting a price they want, they're going to be attached to the agent that had the listing on that property. So it's a wonderful opportunity for the agents who are going to take listings. But it's also a great market because the abundance of buyers in the marketplace today. I mean, I don't know in our careers if we've ever seen as many buyers in the market as we have today. Part of that is because the pandemic, you know, a lot of people sat at home for 3 or 4 months looking at each other, and it wasn't always the prettiest sight after 3 or 4 months of looking at each other. And they start talking about things like, we need a bigger home, a smaller home, we need a condominium, we need to move out of the city. All that is manifesting itself today with the low interest rates. You'll get a kick out of this. I was with a mortgage banking firm in Florida, in Boca Raton, on Monday morning. They funded a loan on Friday, 30-year fixed loan at 1.9%. I mean, we're talking about interest rates that nobody's ever dreamed could ever take place for the buyers. So I would have to start with a question, and I'll ask you if you would. By the way, I love the star on the CB logos that they've done today. I thought that was a great change. I'm seeing it on your shirt, so that's why I brought that up. The question, of course, is the shortage of inventory as challenging for your part of New York as it is for the rest of the country? So that's my first question I'd like to present back. Okay, and I'm seeing the nodding of the head, which means that is the case. Okay, so yes. That means the emphasis on listing property has to be the emphasis of every good agent we have. The problem is today is that about 40 to 45% of the agents in the United States have not reactivated since the pandemic started. You know, they're still home isolated. They're afraid to come out. They're not out engaging in the business as they had been in the past. So that means that amount of competitors is a minimum, but the strength of the competitors is probably better than ever before. So the challenge is, you know, do I work with buyers? Do I work with sellers? And the ownership of the company, naturally, you know, all of the management team, and I know most of the managers inside the company are going to say, let's work to find more listings. It's the fastest way to get paid in real estate today. You know, for most of my career, the fastest way to get paid was put a highly qualified, motivated, pre-approved buyer in a car, show them a property, write up a contract, and 45 days later you get paid. Well, today, the fastest way to get paid is to work with the sellers. However, the competition is a bigger challenge today on getting a listing because the agents that list property are better at the sales process than probably ever before. So the challenge that we face in leadership is trying to convince the agents of the value and importance of listing property. There's no question it's easier to put a buyer in the car than it is to go find a seller that you try to list. There's no question that process is not as tense or stressful. However, it's way more time consuming to work with a buyer than a seller. So hopefully by the time we finish our time together, we can convince most of the agents that thinking about listing property is the name of the game. So I'll ask you, RJ, if you'd like to participate as I'm going through these points, you're welcome to. And if you want to cover point 3 or I'll cover it, either one.
Yep, I got the list, Mike. I'll jump in.
Please. Yeah,
Perfect.
why don't you take point 3 and that will maybe help them see what we really are trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and really it's because of a low inventory shortage and low interest rates. The market should remain strong for the end of 2020 and the first quarter of 2021. And again, as Mike said before, worst case scenario, we'll have 4 million plus sales this year, and that's 8 million commission checks being distributed. You know, that's nothing to balk at.
Yeah. Well, you know what I'm trying to do with that thought, RJ, I'm trying to get them to see how immense the market really is. And you know, we all get caught up in our town, our county, our little province, you know, our little borough, our little corner of the world. And we forget how big this real estate market is that we're all participating in. I mean, there's going to be at least 8 million commission checks distributed to professional realtors this year all over North America. Well, specifically all over the US. The only question is, how many do each one of your agents want to attain themselves? So I'm going to ask a favor of your agents, okay? Take a business card and on the back, write a number. How many deals do you want to close between today, August, I think it's 11th, through December 25th? How many deals do they want to close? Okay, what do they want to accomplish? And hold on to that card and look at that card and touch that card, you know, every day 10 times to get the thought planted in their head, because we often think, you know, that we're competing in a marketplace where we don't have a chance. The market is huge. I mean, the market is enormous for the real estate industry. The problem that we face, and I know, RJ, you guys work on it. Katie and I have talked about it for probably 25 or 30 years, as long as she's been with the company. The problem is helping the agents understand this is a skill-based business. Because, and I know when I say what I'm going to say next, some people get offended. They think it's a relationship-based business. And there's a relationship, obviously, that takes place with a buyer or a seller. There's a certain commonality that takes place as you meet and talk to people. But what they're looking for is a skilled agent that can do the job and do it at the highest level. And you know, let's be honest, working with buyers, skills are not as important as they are with sellers. You'll get a kick out of this. I have an 8-year-old grandson named Sean, and he's got bright red hair and he's covered in freckles. He looks like Huckleberry Finn. And I said to him a couple nights ago, I said, Sean, do you want to make some money this summer? And of course, 8-year-old eyes this big. Yes. Grandpa, how do I make money? I said, I'm going to buy you a little mask and I'm going to paint a smile face on it. I'm going to get you a pair of gloves, a little booties, and some hand sanitizer. And I'm going to have you stand at the door of an open house. And every person that walks up, I want that, they'll see that cute little smile and they'll smile back. And then say to them, if you like the home, ask yourself if you want to buy it. He goes, what will happen? I said, well, if they like the home, they'll want to buy it. And I said, and if you can sell it to them, you'll get a commission. And then he goes, Grandpa, is that really all that we have to do? See, here's the challenge. To sell a home today, we have to find a house that is for sale, that is not involved in 10 or 12 offers, which is hard. Open the door, shut up, and let them buy the house. But to list a home, It takes a lot of skill. And of course, the skills, RJ, that I've been talking to your company about for, gosh, probably 35 years now, are not the skills they want me to talk about, because it's prospecting and lead follow-up and pre-qualifying and a strong I mean, folks, what is CB now? What, about 115 years old as a company in the US? I see those kind of reports. I mean, everybody says they're the biggest and the best. Folks, CB is the best. And I want to share something which I don't talk about. For many, many years, and I don't think that you're aware of this, once a month they had all the new franchisees in Mission Viejo, California for a week of training, introducing the new franchise to CB. And on Friday at 1 o'clock, Mike Ferry was invited to speak every month at this big CB franchise meeting. And they had a big banner on the wall. It used to be the logo for the company. And it said, Coldwell Banker, and then there was a period, dot, Coldwell Banker, period. So I would always close my segment with the Coldwell Banker franchisees by saying, read me the sign. And they would go, Coldwell Banker. I said, no, that's not what the sign says. They go, well, sure, it says Coldwell Banker. I said, no, it says Coldwell Banker, period. End of conversation. The best. Not second place, not third, the best. Well, we're always trying to drive that point home, that you folks work for the most prominent company in the world today at CB. Somebody gave me, and I don't know if you, RJ, seen it, the original book written by the founders on the company, Coldwell Banker. It's a fascinating book, and I hope someday that all of you have a chance to read it. But everything that they talk about within CB revolves around skills. You know, the skill of representing a seller in a professional manner to get the job done, which means you have to prospect, do lead follow-up, pre-qualify, take the strength of the company and present it in a professional manner and handle their objections. So Monday afternoon, we live in Las Vegas, Nevada. And Monday afternoon, my wife and I have finally decided to sell our home in Newport Beach and buy a different property. So I called 2 agents over that are local customers of my company. First agent comes at 3 o'clock. I answer the door, and this happens, unfortunately. The agent looks at me and goes, oh my God, you're Mike Ferry. I said, yes, sir, I am. Well, he was a wreck. He was so nervous about presenting his listing to the guy that created the listing presentation. But when he left, he said the wrong thing. He looked at me and he looked at my wife and he said, okay, now I've told you my story. When you guys are ready to sign a contract, call me and I'll come over. So he wanted me to do the lead follow-up on him. Wrong program. The second agent came in, made the presentation. He said to me at the end, do you need any time? I said, well, give us overnight. We'll decide tonight. The next morning by 8 o'clock, he had texted me 3 times saying, what time should I pick up the contract? Guess who we listed with? The agent that was strong in the skill of lead follow-up. I wish we could magically take a little computer chip and insert it in all the agents' head that would give them the ability to learn the skills. Okay, the Buffalo Bills are a great football team and will be a really good team this year now that Brady's out of New England, okay? That's gonna help you guys a lot. All they do is practice their skills. That's all they do, okay? The Sabres practice their skills. If you're in New York City, the Jets and the Giants practice their skills. The Yankees and the Mets practice their skills. The Knicks practice their skills. So I'm hoping, RJ and Katie, that we can get the message across that listing property is a skill-based business. Now, I want to share something. I've made a big change since the pandemic started in my thoughts about prospecting. I don't want them to prospect less, and I don't want them to prospect more. I want them to add the word quality to the prospecting they do. We're in a very unusual time in our nation today with this pandemic. It's times we've never seen before. People are thirsty for information about what's going on because of this home isolation. it's a wonderful chance for every one of the CB agents to bring good information in terms of quality to the homeowners, whether it be a just listed, just sold, or a for sale by owner, or one of their past clients or centers of influence. So you're going to get a kick out of this. I have a quote, and I'll send this to you after we're done today, from Earl Nightingale. And this quote was given to me in 1968. That I'm giving away my age quickly, but it was 1968. And he was talking about quality. So I'm going to share this with your team. Earl said, the quality of your prospecting contacts, determines the quality of the leads that you get, which determines the quality of the appointments you go on, which determines the quality of the listings you take. It's qualities, quality. So, hi, I'm here to list your home. I'm here to talk to you. I'm really excited. Your home is so pretty. Oh, I see you have a dog. I love dogs is not quality. Walking in, making a professional presentation representing CB, pointing out what the company and what the agent has to offer is the quality we have to go for. So I'm going to make a wild thought here. I'm asking every agent inside your company to consider mentally that they could get to the point of taking 3 or 4 listings per month. Because if we do, the domination you'll have in the market will be second to none. But to make that happen, I'm going to ask if you wouldn't mind, RJ, to share point number 7 on the plan for taking 3 to 4 listings a month.
I was going to say, I thought you were taking it away from me. But no, the goal of 4 listings per month is key. Setting a 30-day plan for each month for the remainder of this year, and keep the plans simple. As Mike has laid out for us previously, it's how many hours in a day are you going to prospect? The number of contacts you will make, leads generated, appointments set, and listings taken. All good goals to have in mind that lead to 4 listings a month. And that is obtainable even today.
And you know what's interesting about that? Your company spends a lot of time, obviously, at the end of each year, helping the agents plan their next 12 months. The business plan is a very important part. It's the roadmap, it's the path that an agent has to follow. And it's so interesting to me because my broker, a guy named Pat McVeigh, and I introduced Pat McVeigh to your dad a long time ago when they were both much younger, and so was I. And it was interesting because my broker, Pat McVeigh, was a fanatic on planning. So he and I are sitting at breakfast, and he hands me a 3x5 card. And he said, I want you to print your name at the top of the card. So I did. So, you know, I'm a little old fashioned at times. I went to 12 years of Catholic school. I'm used to doing what I'm told. So that's what you do when you go to Catholic school. So, you know, this was my mentor, my boss, my friend, Pat McVeigh. So I wrote my name. He said, I'm going to ask you 5 questions and I want you to answer them honestly. I said, fire away. He said, how many hours are you going to prospect per day for the next month? I said, well, Pat, I love to prospect. I know that I'm a little weird, but I love to prospect, and I'm going to prospect 4 hours a day. He said, write it down. It's interesting, RJ, because, you know, this old thought of writing down the plan or the goal, as you and I know, manifests it a lot faster in your head. Then he said, how many contacts do you make per day? I said, 40 to 50. Write it down. He said, how many leads can you generate? I said, at least 1 a day. That would be a minimum. Because see, my belief is if we could get the entire team to go out and prospect for just 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, the amount of leads that we would get inside the company would be extraordinary, because the leads are there. I mean, people want to move, people want to buy, people want to sell. He said, how many appointments can you set? I said, easily 1 a day. I want to do 20 listing appointments a month. And he goes, okay, how many listings can you take? I said, 15. Because I took 15 listings a month for 2 straight years. But then he asked me to sign my name at the bottom of the card. And I said, why? I want you to create a contract between yourself and yourself. And I went, oh, that's an interesting thought. But then he did something which I'll never forget. He said, I'm going to give you 5 more cards, duplicate this card 5 times. I said, why? He said, I want you to take and put one on the mirror. So when you're brushing your teeth and shaving, you're seeing what your plan is. Then I want you to give one to your wife. I said, why would I give one to my wife? He said, I want her to stand at the door when you leave for work, point to the card and say, this is your job today, go do it. Talk about accountability. Then give one to your sales manager. Then he said, I want you to go ahead and put one on your desk and look at it and keep one in your pocket. Well, you know, a lot of people do not like the fact that some people succeed at a higher level than others, but they succeed at a higher level because they have a plan. And I want everybody to know what RJ just shared with you is a simple plan to move your business forward if you want to move your business forward. So I'm also going to suggest right now, if I may, if they have any questions while we're presenting, you and I, they can type them in the chat box, or they can email me at the end of the day or sometime today, and I'll answer their questions, because often I've discovered on Zoom, they're a little hesitant to put questions in the chat box. So I'll give you my email address when we're done. So if we were doing a live seminar today, and I was thinking about this morning, Katie probably can answer it better than either you or I. I was thinking about how many times I've had the good fortune of standing in front of your company, in front of your agents over the years, and presenting a live seminar. And I've estimated that I probably spent at least 75 days over my career in front of your company presenting. And I've always said one thing that was very common. This business is about the strength of your mindset. This business is about the strength of your skills. This business is about the activities you're involved in. And this business is about doing something and taking action every day. So you're going to kick out of this. On Friday, I got a phone call from a friend of mine who is a competitor. And it's a guy that you know because he's very popular within your organization. And we've been friends for 35 years. And we were talking about our business. And, you know, you and I a couple of years ago had a fun discussion about the business and what we were trying to accomplish and what you were doing as you took over the company, which I appreciated what you said. And it was interesting because my friend said to me, we teach different activities. I said, I know. He said, I teach activities to reduce the amount of rejection an agent receives. I said, I know. He said, you teach activities where they get a lot of rejection. I said, I know. He said, why do you do that? I said, because the amount of rejection that an agent receives is in direct correlation to the amount of production they do. If they're never going to get rejected in a sales situation, it's hard to ever get to the point of getting contracts signed. So, you know, I've found out there's about 60 methods of prospecting to get a listing. 60. In fact, I wrote a report on it. Your agents can go online and download it and read it. 60 methods of prospecting. But about 20 of them are activities that get a listing faster. So the activities that an agent's involved in really do become the name of the game. But there's one activity, and I'm going to ask you to share your thoughts on this in a minute. There's one activity that they don't like. And that is when you and I say to them, think about learning a script. And that's the activity that agents balk at the most. So on point number 9, I talk a little bit about this, and I'm going to let RJ share that point with all of you folks, if I may.
Absolutely. This was really about listing property. The required skills that an agent has to have is a canned and scripted presentation. And for me, that always meant something different. And I love how Mike presents it. Non-productive agents fight being told what to say, and they fight learning these canned presentations. But when you think about it differently, a listing presentation requires showing the seller the exact process that you're going to use. This can only be done when you know what to say and what to do. And if you don't know what to say, how do you know what to do and what you're supposed to do? You can't do it. So drawing that line together, I've always found to be important, and it's a great point of Mike's as well.
Well, I have to tell you, RJ, that's my response, okay? Because I really think that the summation of our business is the ability to be able to converse intelligently with a buyer or seller, to be able to ask questions, to draw out information, to solve the problem that they are dealing with or having. And if they don't know what to say, they can't do it. I mean, you just presented that as if you had presented that 1,000 times, because you knew exactly what message you wanted to get across, which is what we're trying to do. I had a flight across country, and this is, gosh, now probably 40 years ago. I flew across country sitting next to O.J. Simpson when he played for the Buffalo Bills. And granted, it was a long time ago. And I remember I used to watch him when he played at USC in Southern California, and I was a big admirer of his skill. And I remember saying to him, how do you know what to do every time you get that ball? And he said, it's simple, we have a playbook. And he said, we study the script, we study the plays, we practice them all day long, and then when the moment takes place, bang, we follow that script. And I thought, that's exactly what a real estate agent has to do. They have to have a playbook. They have to have a script. Although, RJ, you and I have not spent a lot of time personally together in seminars like we did with your dad and some of the team in the past, I have never in my career done a seminar without having the notes in my hand. I do it every time. And people say, why? I said, because I want to make sure I cover the points. So I'll say to a seller, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I've written down some very important questions. Do you mind if I ask them? They go, okay. And I just read the script. Now, folks, 15 listings a month taken residential for 2 straight years from Mike Ferry, a 90% closing ratio on presentations to contract signed. Don't tell me it doesn't work. Tell me you're not willing to learn the script. See, and thank you for that. I appreciate that. And it's not even learning, it's just reading. Because if you can read, which most of us can do. So it's an interesting dilemma we face because, we all want to be ourselves. We want to have a little stand on what we think is the right way to do business. And that's understandable and certainly acceptable. But the challenge is, when that seller opens the door and sees us standing there, they start making judgments which are mostly unfair. They start judging us from the moment they see us. And in listing property, we have to reduce the judgments by being stronger in how we present what we present. I'm going to say something which somebody, no matter what I say, somebody's not going to like something I say. But, over the last 7 or 8 years, we've gotten to know an entertainer in Europe who is very, very famous. His name is Andrea Bocelli. And my wife and I have got to know Andrea and Veronica pretty well, and we are very lucky to spend time with them. The guy's the highest paid entertainer in the world today and has been for 8 years. He practices 4 hours a day. Now, I don't think Andrea Bocelli has to practice 4 hours a day to entertain, but he practices 4 hours a day. And I asked him why. We're sitting at lunch in a little restaurant outside of his home in Italy last September. And I said, why do you practice as much as you do? He said, Mike, because when I walk on the stage, I'm always a little nervous and I want to create a very strong impression with that audience. So I practice so I can create a strong impression. I said, sounds like a listing presentation, doesn't it? They're going to judge us on what we say. They judge us on how we say it. They judge on how we respond. They judge on how we look. They judge on whether we're an authority or not. So anything we can do to become stronger in our presentation skills is going to help the seller make a much faster decision. So RJ, you'll get a kick out of this. I use this example. The seller says to the agent, can you get my home sold? And the agent goes, well, I'll try real hard. You're my only listing, so I'll give it 100%. You're not going to get the listing unless the seller is your mother, okay? Period. But if a seller says to you or I, can you get my home sold? We smile and say, absolutely, but not until you sign the contract. Would you sign the contract, please? And that changes, thank you, that changes the dynamics of the presentation. The name Earl Nightingale rings through to almost everybody in our industry. It was one of my mentors. And he taught me something which I'll never forget. And he said to me, Mike, knowledge equals confidence, ignorance equals fear. If you're knowledgeable, sellers will respond in a professional manner to you. If you are ignorant of what to say, you're not going to be able to present, and they're going to list with somebody else. Because sellers want a knowledgeable, confident, enthusiastic, energetic agent all the time. So it's a tough challenge that your agents face today. And the reason it's a tough challenge, about 10% of the agents are taking about 90% of the listings in the country today. So as strong as CB is, as strong as your company now must be what, 50 some years old, I would guess? Is it older than more than 50?
We are about 35. If you include the Catskills, we are 40. But if
Okay.
you include pre-Coldwell Banker, there's a decade there. So you'll get to 40 with that number.
So they must have started hiring me just when they became CB, which was a long time ago. Well, you know, I keep thinking with the strength of the name, the strength of the company, the strength of the experience, and then we take the management team and we take any outside influence we have, they got to be good at what they do because the competition's good. And the competition's getting better. I mean, I am convinced that a lot of the people that we have the good fortune of working with are so strong in their market because the competition is not strong. So you're going to get a kick out of this. Each day at the 35-minute mark on my webinars, I get a text from my assistant, Lori, who Katie's been communicating with. And the text says, Mike, stop. That's all it says, because I have to do another one in about 15 minutes. So RJ, first of all, it is really, it's a fun time in my life, because as you and I are communicating today, you know, 10, 20, 30 years ago, I communicated with your dad. We sat many times after seminars and chatted and talked about the business and what we're doing. So it's fun seeing the next generation. And I appreciate you're open to having me with us today and the conversations we're having. I'd also like to say to a lot of your long-term agents, thanks for your continued support. I would love it, okay, if all of your agents signed up for our big retreat next month. I mean, the Coldwell Banker price is $195 for 3 days with Mike Ferry. And here's the good news. Anybody that signs up for our retreat gets a free front row seat because it's going to be done virtually, okay? So no flying across country, no staying at a fancy hotel, you know, none of those issues are in play today when you do a virtual retreat. So I'm going to forward information. If you could pass it on to your agents, it would be great. And with that, tell Katie that it was nice seeing her for just a moment earlier. RJ, I think it's probably been 2 years since we chatted last time, and I appreciate the time we've had then, and I appreciate the time today. And I know we have some very loyal supporters in the company, and we appreciate that a lot. So I'm going to say, RJ, keep up the good work and keep the company going strong. I appreciate it today.
Thank you, Mike. Great as always to chat and to hear you and to get, I think we had about 90 people on the call today. So that's a wonderful number. I was very happy to see a lot of the faces. And as you said, Mike, there's a lot of loyal Mike Ferry fans on the line. And, you know, folks, there's a lot of variations, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of tactics and a lot of ideas that it's refreshing with, and it's staying on top of. And as Mike said, writing it down is the first step. Understanding it, I think, is beautiful. And again, the retreat next month at a discounted price. I know it's on our calendar, and we've rearranged our manager schedules to accommodate the same in the month of September. So we're excited to be a part of that and to see more faces there. I encourage everybody to do what they need to in order to take it to the next level here. And of course, any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach out to your manager or myself. I will be circulating around to everybody this webinar, as well as some assets that Mike will be sharing, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. And RJ, I guess today I have to give you a virtual high five. I can't give you a real one, so here's a virtual high five. There you go. And I'll look forward to seeing you live sometime very soon. Thanks again for today. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.